What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Play the Fight Song College Football Show. A big-time surprise episode for everybody. We really didn't do much announcing this, but we talked about it on the back end. Wanted to get you guys a little extra show to get you ready for Week 0 in the college football season, which is just now 3 sleeps away, gentlemen. So we are getting closer and closer to kickoff this weekend. Iowa State, Kansas State. You can check out our preview live on our fan perspectives. JT and Jake took us through that entire game. It's doing great, so give it a listen. It's a good preview of the game, gives you some both looks. I think, JT, I don't want to spoil it, but you took the Cats, didn't you?
I might have taken the Cats, but don't worry. If you listen to our season preview, I still had Iowa State getting to 10 wins again, so all is
all right. Good. Well, JT's joining the show. He usually does our Iowa State show. He's come on the show before, but happy to have JT back in the studio tonight in JP's absence. JP, we will still have his picks on the show, but this is kind of more of a better show. Or you can just argue whether or not you think a team is going to get to X amount of wins, which we'll discuss tonight. Jake and Reese are still here in the studio. Jake, how we doing tonight? This was your idea for the show, you and JT. You got a lot of picks for us or what?
Yeah, I do, and I'm excited to get after it because I think we needed to do this before we dive into Week 0 plays. Next week, we're going to give you guys Week 1 bets, all that other stuff, and it's like at some point we've done a nice job of previewing all these teams. Go ahead and check out our conference previews, but we got to talk, like, are these teams going to win any games? I feel like it's appropriate to talk about that before we finally get the first college football game of the season this Saturday.
And Reese is on the other side. Reese is just joining us. If you weren't here last week for the SEC preview, he's back in the United States after his wonderful service in the United States Army. Reese, are you ready to start betting on some football again? You can't do that in Syria. DraftKings not over.
No, we could. We tried. There's a lot of VPNs you can do. They don't allow that over there. We tried our darns to knock out the bucket list. But yeah, no, we're ready for some football, man. Let's talk some overs, talk some unders. So everybody's gonna talk about it on the college football podcast lately. So let's dive into it.
I love that. All right. Well, if you're new here, subscribe to the show, like the video. We appreciate you being here. This is your home for college football content all year long with exclusive content for Nebraska, Iowa, and Iowa State. So check that out on our YouTube channel. If you're not watching on YouTube, head over, hit the subscribe button. Let's get to 2,000 people. Give us a good push. We love you and appreciate you being here. Before we get into the first topic, which will be big dogs, which we're going to talk, the top 15, top 20 teams, what their over-under are, if there are any plays that you see on your card are worth taking. We'll discuss those. We want to remind you to shop No Rivals, our great partner over at No Rivals. Shop NoRivals.com and use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping on all of your awesome new hats. There's a ton of teams on there now, so give them a look. They got new designs dropping throughout the season. You want to look your best for kickoff, so head on over to shopnorivals.com today and use the code PTFS. All right, gents, let's get into it. Let's go into the big dogs. Jake, I'm going to throw it over to you. You take us through a few of these teams and lead us off with a little discussion and maybe even start with a team that's on your card.
Yeah, when I titled this Big Dogs, this is basically everyone who had one of two things, and win total of over 9.5 was my one requirement. And then the other one was, does some of these, they have heavy juice. So it differs from odds perspectives. We'll go through all of them, but these teams all at least have 9.5. To my knowledge, nobody's got 11.5. Nobody thinks Vegas is these teams are on the brink of going undefeated. So we'll just start from the top. Let's start with the big dogs in the SEC. You'd be paying your juice for Georgia over 9.5 minus 180. Alabama over 9.5 minus 120. Texas over 9.5 minus 180. Those are the three of your top dogs in the SEC. You're paying a lot of juice for them to reach 10 wins. I haven't been able to find any 10.5s within the SEC. Ohio State over 10.5 plus 120. Are the Buckeyes going to get to 11 wins again? Penn State over 10.5 minus 105. Oregon over 10.5 plus 145. I believe that is the highest odds we have out of these big dogs. Clemson over 10.5 plus 120. Notre Dame over 10.5 plus 115. And then some of your G5 schools. Liberty over 9.5 minus 135. And then we have the Boise State Broncos over 9.5 minus 200. You got to feel like with so much juice in that one, there's got to be a book out there that's got 10.5 somewhere. But I just haven't found it. And with Boise State, you're in that tough tough predicament of, okay, you're assuming they just lose the Notre Dame game. Do they run the table from there? So my first question would be for you fellas. I have 2 questions, but I didn't put this one on the doc. Does anyone have any of these actually played? Justin, I know we wanted to set this episode up because you actually have a ton that you've taken to the counter. You don't have any of these big dogs, do you?
No, I don't. There's a couple I've been looking at. I really wanted to take the Alabama over, but I did last year, and that kind of burned me. So I still might end up taking that one. I do have them alternated to get 9+ wins in a bet, but I think that's the only one that I've bet out of that group.
So I ask you guys then, which one out of this group do you feel the most confident in? Parks, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, I really looked at this, and this is one that I would suggest taking for everybody, but I had it at 9.5. There's the juice is on 10.5, but that's Clemson. Clemson's mostly seen at 9.5, and you can get it like -120, which is still good enough odds to tickle me. I feel like they're a double-digit win team, like no doubt in my mind with the strength they have coming back, especially with the experience they have at the quarterback position with Cade Klubnik. So Clemson over 9.5 really makes me feel good. The 10.5, and then we kind of get a little sweaty towards the end of the year, and it kind of makes me worry a little bit more. But 9.5 is what you see posted out there more often at -120. That's what I would take, and that's the team that really shines on this list for me.
It's funny. I was just going to say, I have Clemson as my least confident, but that's based off the 10.5.
Yeah,
just because of the uncertainty of the LSU games. You lose that one, you're like, ah, crap. I'm behind.
I got one more. Yeah.
But then, yeah, I'd probably totally flip it if you had Clemson at 9.5. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Reese.
No, so if you're talking confidence-wise, I think Georgia is where I lean at the over 9.5. I just think you get a lot of your big games at home. You get Bama, Ole Miss, and Texas all at home. That's huge. Your road game to start the year, I mean, you go on the road to Tennessee, but then again, this is a Tennessee where don't know what they're really going to be like and what's Aguilar really going to be like. Granted, Nealon is hard to play, but I just think Stockton, it's also, I talked about him last week, but it's a fresh quarterback. You know, how successful are those guys going to be to start off the year? Going on the road and the SEC to start it off is not going to be easy, but I just don't think Tennessee offensively is going to have that much going on for them. And then defensively, I think Georgia is just going to be an issue for Tennessee. So I just think they go in there and that's going to handle. And then, I mean, your other tough road games are Florida, which I think they're going to be a pretty good team this year as well, too. Auburn, and then Georgia Tech the end of the year. But, like, these are teams that are trying to climb back up and get a little bit more competitive. But if you're Georgia, like, these are just games you should win. They shouldn't be an issue for you, I think. And, like, when you look at the schedule, too, I just don't think there's a lot of coin flip. Like, are they going to win or are they going to lose this game? Like, it's Georgia. Like, so, like, 9.5 for this team, the over. Like, if you're looking at all the big dogs, that's the one I definitely feel the most confident in.
I like that. It's a good one overall. Jake, maybe to you. We haven't asked you who do you feel most confident in from that list? I mean, we're talking Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, Clemson, Notre Dame, Liberty, and Boise State. If you're just joining us, give us your team you feel most confident in with the number.
I kind of have to piggyback with Reese. Like, I think Georgia's the one right now. And another thing too, Reese, is you mentioned Georgia Tech and Florida as road games, if you want to call it, but Florida's in Jacksonville again this year. And then I believe they're moving the Georgia Tech one to the Mercedes Dome in
It's in
Atlanta.
Mercedes? Oh, okay.
I believe. So it's like, how could you, that's like Georgia's second, home field for them. So it's just just a terrible adjustment by college football there. But nonetheless, like that, if you're a Georgia bettor, I feel really good with that because your road games, not to say these aren't tough, but you mentioned it at Tennessee. You're catching Tennessee at a good spot right now, at least preseason wise. And then Auburn, the middle of October, like I guess the first couple of weeks of October, the wheels could already fall off if you're Auburn by then. So kind of a hit or miss, but I really like Georgia there. Texas at 180 just feels too much for me. Now, Texas has become one of those teams that you kind of just give the benefit of the doubt. Like, this isn't like Texas, like year one Sark, Charlie Strong era. Like, Sark has now produced numerous recruiting classes and multiple double-digit win seasons together. And it's like, yeah, they lost a lot of guys, but I kind of just trust this Texas team is actually back and they're going to be Texas. But I mean, what do you know with Arch? Like, was he really going to be that dude? The why I lean Georgia is because Georgia gets the home game. Texas has to go to Georgia in the middle of November. Listen to this. On top of Texas having to go to Georgia, we We obviously know week 1 they go to Columbus. And then you get San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston all at home, maybe to kind of get Arch under his feet, build some gel within your offense. And then you're back on the road at Gainesville. And whether or not Lagway's healthy, whatever, like that team could be humming too if they beat LSU the week prior or whenever that is too. So we could be looking at a Texas team who very well could be 4-1, 5-0, but it is not out of the realm of possibilities. They could have 2 losses before they head to Red River. And who knows what that Oklahoma team is. Like, I feel like Texas at minus 180, 9.5 is just, I don't know too much. I'm not paying that much for it.
If you're a college football bettor, I feel like this season's a little bit different than most, I would say, in the fact that how many big non-con games this almost full list has. Like, we're talking double-digit win totals that are playing each other pretty consistently throughout this list. Like, we get to see Texas and Ohio State in week 1. I mean, these numbers at 10.5, I mean, you only get 1 loss, people. So if they get it early, then you have to go through an entire schedule through the SEC or the Big Ten, and you still only have 1 loss. So that's what scares everybody away from the number, and it's such a difference than most years, I would say, in college football. JT, what do you think? Let's go to the backside of it back to you. What do you feel the least confident in with what I just said from this list of the big names and top-ranked teams in football?
I'm glad Jake brought it up because, I mean, as far as like value goes, I was looking at that Texas over at minus 180. There's no way I'd touch that at minus 180. I was honestly thinking, as far as where the value plays are, I wouldn't be that scared to take Texas's under there. And Jake already kind of touched on the schedule a little bit, but there's a lot of tricky games in there with Ohio State, at Florida, at Georgia, Red River. You still got Texas A&M and a couple other SEC games in there, so you never know. So that's one that I'd be kind of worried about. And I think you can look at it with as far as the value of Clemson's over at 10.5 being at plus money. I think that's going to be a tough one. I know they're really good too. I don't really think Texas or Clemson are not worthy of being in the top 5 like they are. But if you look at some of those schedules, especially with Clemson having LSU right away, if they lose that game, they got to go clean sweep through the ACC, which I don't think is going to happen.
No, God, no. And then 7 of these teams on this list, by the way, have new quarterbacks, new faces running their team. Like these high numbers, man, you got to feel a little nervous. Reese, let's go over to you. Who do you feel least confident in from this group?
Well, it's we're all ball knowers because I'm going to stay with these guys too. Like, it's just Texas for me. Like, all the points they've made, and I agree with. And then it's also the big thing too, where you just talked about it, Parksy, where there's 7 new faces. Great sticker right there. Get that. You talk about 7 new faces, but it's also like Arch Manning. Like, yeah, he's got the hype, he's got all the stuff going on around him, but it's like, when's the last time we've seen a first-year quarterback like genuinely light the world on fire? Like, I heard the guys on Cover talking about this today, but it's like, I don't know the last time it was. And this guy's going to Columbus week 1. This guy's going to the Swamp week 4. Like, it's not crazy that they have a slow start offensively. And like, he's a young quarterback. Like, confidence is a big thing for these guys. And if he's not able to be as successful as he wants right away, like, it's just uphill sled. And then you talk, like JD talked about that OU game as well. And then you get Texas A&M at home to end the year. People forget that game was it wasn't as an exciting of a game, but that game last year had serious implications. Like, the winner of that game was going to the SEC championship game. Like, I talked with them last week, but I am like high on this A&M team, and I think that they are going to be a competitor. I picked them to go to the SEC championship game because I think they're going to win this game. So, like, yeah, if I'm looking at it for a team that I'm least confident to win their totals that we're talking about right now, it's Texas.
I like that. Jake, let's go over to you. Your topic. Tell us who you're least confident in from this list.
Yeah, I would say right now, if you're giving me 10.5 when I listed it, again, it's still Clemson for me, just because like from the betting odds perspective, you're just behind the 8 ball. If they lose week 1, it's tough sledding from there to try to run the table. My last point on it, honestly, this goes for any of the SEC teams. Those 3, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, I wouldn't take any of their win totals. I'd take them to win the conference. If you're just looking at an odds perspective and for them to, get value for your money, because you get Texas to win the conference at plus 270, Alabama plus 380, and Georgia plus 330. Again, let's go back to Texas. Maybe Texas loses week 1 and maybe they drop one to Oklahoma or Florida and they're sitting at 2 losses. Well, if they lose to Ohio State, they're still only sitting at 1 SEC loss. And maybe Arch Manning does start to get more confident as the year goes on and less worried about 3 losses rather than, they're sitting at one SEC loss. They can get to the title game if they're playing their best football, and you get a much better value for it. So if I were touching the SEC, I would just take a straight up conference winner, because we got to remember, was it one of those teams or were they both 10-2 last year between Texas and Georgia in the SEC title? Were they both 10-2?
No, Texas was 11-1, weren't they?
Okay.
Yeah, their only loss was to Georgia.
Yes, and they lost again to them. They got in 11-2.
Maybe that was a hot take I should have said during our conference preview. I think one team gets in at 9-3 in the SEC title game. I think that could really happen this year with as much carnage as you have. What about, let's bring it back to you, Parks, or anybody else chime in, because we haven't really touched on the Big Ten. You look at Ohio State at plus money, Penn State at 10.5 minus money. Let's take Penn State. Feels like the most surefire team, or the most for sure thing within college football right now with all the production coming back. But you're betting on them beating at least Oregon, on the road at Iowa, and Ohio State. And they can't slip up more than once. Like, does anybody trust Penn State? Would they put their money on 10.5 right now?
I wouldn't personally. I mean, Penn Staters probably would, but I probably wouldn't personally, because when I think of that team in general, I think of, is there a James Franklin slip up? I think people forget sometimes last year some of the competitive games Penn State was in. Like, they got into a dogfight in Madison with a bad Wisconsin team that was beaten up. So, I mean, and that was a team you're talking about, this returning production, and maybe they have a quarterback that's been there for 4 years compared to everybody else, but like, they still got in some dogfights with people who had the new teams, that had the new players in the backfield. So if that happens again and you get that slip up mixed in with the 3 teams Jake already mentioned, you're losing your value tremendously. So I don't know if there's enough confidence in any team in college football this year that I would say 11 wins is like a take that bet. And that's just where we're at.
The one thing about Penn State is, I mean, especially after adding Jim Knowles this year and retaining their quarterback, unlike a lot of teams can say, they did get pretty lucky with some of the schedule breaks as far as outside of the at Ohio State game. I know we say you got to run the table after that, but they pretty much got the rest of their tough games at home. They've got Nebraska at home, Indiana at home, Oregon at home.
I know JP's not here, but Iowa on the road.
They definitely won't sleep on that game. And Michigan State on the road isn't going to be an easy one either. But if you're looking at those rosters, who their coaching staffs are, and just stacking up like team for team, it's kind of hard for me to just say like, oh, they're probably going to lose one of the Iowa or Michigan State games. I still feel like they're going to win both of those games.
Yeah, and they've got some replacements too. I think people kind of space on how big Tyler Warren was in that offense last year and how impactful he was, especially scoring the football. That's a big piece you got to replace. I mean, you did a great job in the transfer portal. You did in the recruiting, but like, until we see it, it's hard to say he can fill the shoes of what Warren did there. So there's question marks there. 11 wins is quite a bit. Not going to be very common in college football this year. Go ahead, Reese.
I'll throw one out there that I don't think we've touched on much, is like the Notre Dame.
I was going to bring that up.
Their schedule, right? Like, granted, I'll talk about this team later, but Miami to start the year, like, they also just named, I forget who they named as their starting quarterback. But it's like, you're being a quarterback, Carr, like, you're naming a guy like this kind of late in the year. Like, is the confidence there? And like, you're going on the road to Miami. I don't think Miami's gonna be that great this year, but who knows, if you guys are stagnant to start off the year, you don't look that great, and then you get A&M to come to your place like week 2. Like, those are 2 pretty solid teams to compete with right away. And then you look at the rest of their schedule. I mean, you're catching Boise State, who against it's a game you should win, but Boise State's going to be competitive. You get USC at home. You on the road to Pitt, like, and then Navy's just kind of the that weird service academy game. Like, look at the schedule. Like, it's not crazy. Like, if Miami's supposed to be what they want to be, like, there's a chance they could start off 0-2. And what happens if they start off 0-2? Like, that's just
it's the Clemson thing again. Like, we as college football fans, we're super excited for these awesome week 1 matchups, but you're betting on a team to go 11-1 in their first trip with a quarterback who's never played before is at Miami. Like, I know Miami's kind of starting over, but I think I saw they're like, they've lost 6 in a row since Notre Dame went to Miami. I don't, something like that. So yeah, I wouldn't put my money on that.
Not only that, but the conversation that we have of all these new faces and quarterbacks, that applies to Notre Dame, and it doesn't apply to Miami. He may be in a new uniform, but Carson Beck has big game experience. No matter what you think of him, he's played in the big game and against teams like Notre Dame's caliber. So they could be a little bit ahead of that picture than most people realize. But all right, that is the big dogs. We asked those 2 questions. Any lingering takes, we'll probably get to them on our favorite Power 4 plays. But let's go and start off with the G5 because we cover all 136 teams here. So we're going to give you our favorite overplay of the Group of 5 season. Any team in the Group of 5, who you taking their over? Tell us why. Let's go to Jake first.
Yep. Sorry, just pulling up their schedule here quick. This was my first over I took for the season. I guess when I placed this a couple of months ago. So Justin, you might know where I'm heading with this. I'm going over 7.5 with San Jose State. I believe you can get this for -120 on most books. This is the only one that I'm not getting for plus money for, but I feel like you're paying pretty evenly. If like -120 is about as low as I'll go when I'm paying for futures. What Ken Niumatalolo did last year in establishing what he's got going forward. Walker Eaget comes back, ton of confidence. I know you lose Nick Nash, but it's like this more seems like a spread and shred system rather than what Nick Nash kind of brought to the table. Because he went either like 6th or 7th round in the NFL draft, or he didn't even get drafted at all. So kind of just speaks on like maybe it was more of a system than a player. And outside of Liberty, who we kind of touched on in the big dogs, I don't know if there's an easier schedule out there than San Jose State. Listen, you're going to chalk up 1 if you're betting San Jose State because they go on the road to Austin in week 2 there at Texas. But your other games are at Stanford. You can beat them. Central Michigan and Idaho. I feel pretty confident in those. But the real part where I think is where you make your money is the Mountain West. I've talked about the bottom of the Mountain West was atrocious last year. I think it's a little bit of an upgrade, but I don't think it's that much better this year. You miss, I believe, Boise, you miss Colorado State, and you miss UNLV, and you have New Mexico at home, new head coach, at Utah State, new head coach, at Wyoming. Like, where are they going to be? You get Hawaii at home, you get Air Force at home, at San Diego State. You might hear them in one of my next picks. Fresno State at home, new head coach. Like, you get 3 or 4 new head coaches on your schedule, and your road games are really not that tough. Like at Laramie's it's tough place to play if it gets a little windy over there in Laramie, but I don't really like the trajectory of where they left off last year. So you can make your money easily just based on such an easy conference slate for San Jose State.
All right, San Jose State first off the board. JT, let's go over to you. Who's your favorite G5 over?
May I interest you, gentlemen, in Kent State over 1.5?
Oh,
It's not.
That's how we're starting this.
Plus 188. Plus 188. Money.
It's not one that I put my money on, but it's. Are we really going to say they're going to lose every single conference game 2 years
Seek
in a row?
help.
Yes,
Seek
we
help.
will.
I don't know.
Seek
I
help,
can
brother.
get one. I don't know where it's going to be, but I think they can get one. One that I actually really like is Southern Miss over 5.5. For those who don't know, new head coach over there, Charles Huff, bringing in, I think it's 19 transfers from Marshall last year.
Yep.
That's coming
Sun
from
Belt
a 10
champion, Marshall.
Yep, coming from a 10-win
Wow.
season. I just was looking at their schedule and looking at the talent that they're bringing in. I think that's definitely a team that can challenge for a bowl game this year and hopefully get up to 6 wins.
If you guys have watched this show before and you've watched me preview or talk about the G5, where the hell do you think I'm going for this pick? You got any guess, Reese? You got a guess of where I was?
Is it down in Tejas?
Yeah, we're going a little Denton, Texas. Give me over 6.5 on the mean green of North Texas. Hey, you bring in Skylar Cassidy, defensive coordinator from Sam Houston. We talked about his defense last year. Sam Houston, 10-win football team, ladies and gentlemen. You can get a step up from that defense, that Eric Moore's offense. They just announced Drew Mestemaker as the starter, which we love, which we predicted over Poffenbarger. Gentlemen, this is an 8-win football team in front of us, and that number's at 6.5. So take 7.5 if you feel like I do for the mean green, and that would be my play. I feel really good about the first-year jump because it couldn't get any worse defensively for this unit. They get a little bit better. They're going to win a couple more football games. They already won 6 last year. Let's roll it into 8. That's my pick. North Texas is my favorite over the G5. Reese,
That
go ahead. No, I want to hear the
Go
choice.
ahead,
Go ahead.
Jake.
I might be
Go, Jake.
sold.
Go,
I
Jake.
might have been sold on that one.
I was just gonna say that's more biased than you in your first inaugural college fantasy football draft the other night, where he took 5 current or ex Nebraska football players.
Hey, you got to know ball. I know those players. I know their capability. I'll know they fit into the schemes. We'll settle it on the fantasy gridiron.
We will.
We'll see how those work
Hey,
out.
I took some Syracuse alum and Trevor Pena. People forget about him at Penn State now.
Yep.
They're lucky that Iowa State's week 0 doesn't count, so they are down 1 game, or I would have taken all Iowa State players probably.
Yeah, fair. I feel good about my picks. I feel really good about my team. I was really looking at it. But all right, Reese, let's go over to you. Your favorite G5 over.
Well, if you're talking G5, what's going to help is having a good quarterback. I know Schaefer's high on this guy, so can you tell where I'm going, Schaefer? This guy's coming back to the MAC this year.
Is this
Miami, Ohio, over 6.5.
Reese, I'm glad you said that because I was only going to give 1 for this, but I may already have some cash on Miami, Ohio, over 6.5.
Attaboy.
So
hey, you
cheer
can
about
get
it.
it plus 110. So if you're doing G5, why not make some more money and you're throwing down? Like I said, we're talking about DeQuan Finn. This guy left to go to Baylor last year, got beat up by Sawyer Robertson, didn't play as much in year 1. So guess what? He's coming back to a conference. He's coming back to a Miami, Ohio team who has been competitive the last 2 years. They went 9-5 last season, 7-1 in conference. And the year prior, guess what? They went 11-1 and 7-1 in conference. So their numbers down this year just because they lost a bunch of guys. But guess what? This coach, their coordinators, they know what they're doing, how to win within this conference. So give me Miami, Ohio over 6.5. To say they're like under, like they'll at least get the bowl eligibility. They're going to win 6. They're going to win 7 or 8 games. Like you have DeQuan Finn, who at Toledo was a stud, threw for over 2,000 yards in 3 seasons, 2,500 yards in 2023, and 22 touchdowns, then 23 touchdowns in back-to-back seasons. Like this guy knows how to play within this conference. So give me him.
It's just so disrespectful that a Chuck Martin team would maybe go 6-6 in the MAC. Like this is not going to happen. Now, Justin and I had this conversation when I put this in, and we were going through the schedule. The non-con is tough. What is it? It's like Rutgers, Wisconsin, and another Power 4 team. But here's
Wisconsin,
the kicker:
at Rutgers, UNLV.
UNLV. Okay, at home. You got to go 1 and 2 there. I say you go 1 and 2, and you're getting 2 Big Ten teams who feel gettable. Like I'm not going to say they're going to win, but feel gettable with where the current trajectory of where Rutgers and Wisconsin are at. But here's the thing, Reese. You mentioned last year they went 9-5. They also started 0-3 when they had to play Northwestern, Cincinnati, and another Power 4 team. I can't remember at the top of my head. So for some odd reason, they don't get one of those 3. Like I think they're still running the table in the MAC. Yep. And do they get Toledo at home? I don't have the schedule in front of me.
I think it's on the road. Let me look quick.
Okay. Because they
get Toledo at home. They get Toledo at home.
Okay. DeQuan Finn welcoming Toledo into Oxford. I like this. I like this team, and I don't know. Like it's just such disrespect for one of the best coaches in the conference, and then a former MAC player of the year is under center.
It is a little bit of disrespect, and why we have the chance. We got to talk a little bit more about the G5. I feel like there's more plays out there. You were only going to share one, Jake. JT, I'm sure you've got more. Give us some more G5 overs. We like talking G5 here. So give me more, Jake.
I got one more that I've put my money on, and it is Tulane over 8.5 plus 120. This is tough because this is a team that's got a tough schedule. And somebody maybe want to pull it up for me, or I can look it up here quick. Now, I know they also have, I'm betting on 2 teams in G5 play who have tough non-conference schedules. I know Duke is one of them for Tulane, but you get Darian Mensah coming back to New Orleans where you can defend your home turf. They get Northwestern at home to start week 1 at South Alabama. I feel like you could win both of those football games, and then you have at Ole Miss, which is fine. But after that, like you get on the road at Memphis, which a team that slapped you around last year. I trust a John Summerall team to have a little grit, to bite down their teeth, and just to play a little pissed off, especially the way that kind of ended last season. And you might say, well, if you have more than one quarterback, you have too many quarterbacks, because they do have Caden Samanza and Brandon Sullivan, and then now Jake Retzloff. Sounds like Retzloff is going to be the guy because Sullivan kind of got banged up in fall camp, but
Yep.
I feel really good with what Retzlaff can bring to the table. And then what Summerall said during one of the media outlets was, if you don't want to compete in this quarterback room, if you don't want to compete for a spot in college football, I don't want you on my effing team, is basically what he said. So I feel like there's just a lot of animosity and a lot of pissed off attitude with this Tulane team this year, who also fell short in a conference title. So I think this team gets to 9 wins pretty easily. I love the defense.
I like
that Duke
that.
game
I like
is going to be a lot of fun.
The Duke game will be awesome.
All right, there is our confident overs in the G5. Before I forget, let's go to JP's picks. Let's share Jordan's picks. Jake, give us JP pick. Maybe we can tear them apart here.
Yeah, I almost ran off without JP. JP has over 7.5 for Louisiana. Now, he had a couple of others. I think he also had I think we also had over 7.5 with Georgia Southern. But we'll talk about Louisiana here. I picked that one as one of my more favorites. This team just announced Walker Howard, former LSU transfer, going to be the starter. Zylan Perry, stud running back, comes back. Pretty good defense. I think that this team in the Sun Belt is going to be one to compete. And Michael DeZormo really has this thing humming after a really good season last year. I'll read off some of the highlights of their schedule. Non-con, super easy. Rice, McNeese, at Eastern Michigan. You have at Missouri stuck in there. You can afford to lose that one. And then at James Madison is easily the toughest one on your conference schedule, but everything else seems kind of gettable. Marshall, Southern Miss at home, at Troy, Texas State. Who knows with that ton of turnover in that roster? ULM at home, and you just got to give me 8 wins. So I'm looking at the schedule and I look at this team that returns a lot, and usually I like to pick on Jordan. Yeah, I like to pick on Jordan, but I think this pick is a pretty good pick.
Good pick, Jordan. Good pick, JP. All right, that is the over from JP. Let's go on to the under, the little bit more negative side. JT, you go first. Give us your under for the group of 5 in 2025.
I kind of had a hard time pinning some of these down, but one that was really sticking out to me is UNLV under 8.5, because I think the juice is to the over on that one. I'm not sure if you guys know. So I think you can get that one at plus money. Couple of the road games, because whenever I'm looking at something like that, I'm going in trying to find some of the games I think that could get them. They've got at Sam Houston, second game of the season. This is a week 0 team. They play Idaho State on Saturday. So they've got at Sam Houston. They've got home against UCLA. They go to Miami, Ohio, as we touched on. They've got at Wyoming, at Boise State, and at Colorado State. That none of those are really surefire wins, and all could end up being losses for them. I don't hate the Dan Mullen hire, but I think after the losses that they suffered this past season, it could just be tricky for them to navigate that schedule.
Yeah, that's a fair pick. I saw the 8.5 plus 115 for the over, so it's it could be teetering on either way, though. That's not the moot point. I don't hate the pick because of the pieces they lost. Like we talked about it in their preview. Go check them out. We have previewed all 136. The loss of Ricky White is going to be massive for that team. Yeah. In year 1, to say 9 wins in a conference at the top half's pretty good, and you drew a good amount of them. It makes it tough to get to that 9-win mark. So not a crazy pick at all. All right, Jake, give us your under for the group of 5.
I did have under Kent State under 1.5 down at plus 140.
How's that so disrespectful?
Predicting winless. And I don't know if Kent State fans would disagree. We talk about the schedule there.
Yeah, here's the deal.
Where's the win?
With that. UMass could be the win. I think they have
We're previewing that week 5.
They have an easy, I can't remember what FCS opponent they have. They should win that one, week 1, get off on the right step. But then you have like your gauntlet Power 4 schedule that they have. And then they turn around and have UMass, I believe, at home. Now, UMass brings in the Utah offensive coordinator. Brendan Rose is going to be the starter. He started a few games at Utah. Like, I like that situation with Utah has a new coach who I like. I think that's the guy they brought over from, I don't want to get it wrong, where I think, he was an FCS school, one of the blue FCS schools, but nonetheless, I like what he's not McNeese. I'm gonna look it up, but I like what they bring in, and I don't know if this team lost their D coordinator, And what was that, like 3 weeks ago in
Rally
Kent
the
State?
troops.
And the
Oh,
Ken
rally
Burns
the
gets
troops.
That thing's
hired.
all belief.
I just,
You ever
oh,
seen We Are
man.
Marshall?
This is kind of like We Are Marshall. Like when
Oh
they beat
my
that
God.
FCS, when
I
they,
don't know about that. I don't know
I
about
get-
that. All right.
don't
Let's back
aggregate
up
me
a little
here.
bit.
Don't
Back up
aggregate
a
me
little
here. The season after the tragedy where they beat, who did Marshall beat? Like Virginia or some terrible team, and that was their one win this year. That's going to
What
be
are we
Kent
talking
State.
about? What? No,
That's
it's
gonna be-
not at all. Like,
It's going to be
What
Kent
about-
State. The
What
roster.
about at
So-
Northern Illinois to end the season? Northern Illinois looking to greener pastures, start eyeing the Mountain West a little
Send
bit.
them off
Penn
on a good
State
note.
sends them packing, gets the over. Wouldn't that be
okay.
good?
I just don't know if we can compare a complete roster overhaul to
Those-
a complete roster
Listen,
Somehow,
overhaul.
Kent,
that was a
somehow
joke
Kent
that he
State
took
1.5
out.
win total is similar to Marshall.
The Marshall team that was playing with all freshmen because all of their players, whatever.
They
The
just got
roster,
around.
the similar roster in talent at Kent
Yeah,
State
go
is
ahead.
pretty similar to their peers in the MAC. It is not far off of how bad a discrepancy between Marshall had against their opponents and what
I think
Kent
we got to
State.
keep. I think we got to keep rolling here. We're gonna
Kent
keep
State.
circling back somehow. We got to roll.
They did keep circling back. Watch the movie. All right, let's go to my under for the group of 5. And it's a little bit different. You probably wouldn't expect it because I gave a good preview for this team because there is upside on the roster. But because of the piece they lost at quarterback, you're uncertain about them, and that's Memphis. And I like under 8.5 for Memphis because I think Memphis 8 is the magic number. Like, I really feel like that's their ceiling this year. I think people are undervaluing what Seth Hannigan did for this program and this offense. Yes, you bring in former Nevada starter and Brandon Lewis, but does he offer the same arm ability that you got from Hennigan? In my mind, no. So I think 8's that number for Memphis. They're going to take a step back from being a 10-win football team a year ago, but that's just how good their quarterback was. And like Maurice mentioned, that's very important, especially through a group of 5 season. So I think Memphis is going under 8.5 this year, and it's pretty good odds, -110. Reese.
I went with one just as a little reminder to people to remember that this is now an FBS team this year. How about Delaware under 4.5? I just
Jake
think
hates
if
it.
you're, I just,
Jake hates
JP
I just think-
JP has Delaware over 4.5. That's just
I
That's
just
just
think,
what
I
he
just think
has.
you're coming in to not just like G5. You're coming into the Conference USA like it's a competitive conference, and like
gauntlet.
it's different week in and week out. Like it's tough. On the road, Colorado, Sam Houston, Wake Forest, Jack State, and Liberty. You get Middle Tennessee, West Kentucky, and UConn at home. Where it's like I just don't know week in, week out if this team is like at the FBS level, like FCS, yeah, very competitive, but step up. It's like we had Kennesaw State and those guys last year where it's coming in. And
Can you
it's just
get the
different. So I
boys
think-
to get up and compete on Tuesday and Wednesday nights? This ain't FCS football anymore, son. You're playing on Tuesdays and
different.
Wednesdays.
It's different. So yeah, that's easy one. How about the Blue Hens out east?
All right. I know Delaware fans, we talked about it in their preview, are not of that expectation. They expect them to compete right away. Maybe competing is just 4 wins. So you could both be right in that scenario. It really depends fan to fan. Any other unders for G5 programs before we go to JP's picks that anybody wants to share?
I had San Diego State under 4.5 plus 120.
No Sean Lewis belief.
I'm kind of over it. And I think I highlighted it in our preview. Like they lost 8 in a row to end the season. They have no identity at quarterback. The defense brings back 10 starters, and they say the offense lost in football games last year, but the defense gave up a ton of points too. So maybe the defense just, as far as like chemistry goes and one more year of maturity, comes in and plays a little better. But like, you got games that you wish you had on the road that you could just eat, like Boise at home. You wish you could just maybe have that on the road and just chalk it up as a loss. You want good, valuable home games, and I don't really see a ton of these on the schedule. Colorado State at home earlier in the year, kind of, again, one of those you'd rather flip for maybe I don't have the schedule in front of me entirely, but maybe you'd rather just get a Wyoming at home and try to get your wins there. So I'm a little out on San Diego State.
Fair enough. JT, any underplays you want to share?
I thought about taking Jacksonville State with the loss of Rich Rod and what they've got going on. They've got kind of a difficult schedule. They've got UCF, Liberty, Southern Miss, Sam Houston. I mean, those are kind of the extent of them. I kind of wanted to take the under. It's sitting at 5.5, but honestly, looking at it, it almost swung me to start to take the over on it. That I think there's 6 wins on that schedule they could get.
Yeah, I think Jack State, that UCF game week 1 is going to be a little bit more interesting than I think the eye meets. I mean, you got a new system and a new head coach and complete overhaul over at UCF. And that Jack State team, I'm a Clint Trickett guy. I like Clint Trickett at the OC position.
There's a lot of value you can find when teams overhaul a lot of new players, but it's kind of tricky to kind of predict what's going to happen to those teams that has like the mass exodus of coaches and players, because they could get new guys who could step up or could completely fall apart. So those are kind of bets I try to stay away from, but always interest me to kind of see where the number's at.
All right, that is the unders. Let's go to JP's picks for the group of 5. Give us his under, Jake.
I like this pick from JP, except you're paying a little bit for it. Under 4.5, UAB minus 140. 3 lone starters return. I think this Trent Dilfer experience has just been an absolute dumpster fire. And just some of the comments that he just goes out and makes publicly is just, it rubs fans the wrong way. And I just haven't found a fan of UAB on Twitter or anywhere else that's like, yeah, I'm glad we kept him around for this year. Like, I really feel like it is UAB football used to be before they cut the program. And then actually, I think they had a good year after they cut the program.
What an all-time video.
It's a historically good G5 team. And they don't take 3 and 9 seasons from anybody. So they get back their quarterback in Kitna, but I just don't think Dilfer's bringing in a bunch of like backup Power 4 SEC guys. And that just feels like an entitled disaster where guys are going to think they should be starting and they're not, and the locker room's up in shambles, and it's over early for them. So I like this pick from JP.
I like how you said early, because it does go, if it goes south, it's going to go south fast. Like as soon as the first loss happens that is out of the norm for UAB, those fans wanted them out a long time ago, and they're just going to build off of that. So I'd be honestly shocked if they don't start off with a decent competitive minimum 500 record through 6 games, if he's even there. That's just where UAB's at with that head coach. So good pick from JP there. Let's keep it moving. Let's go to the Power 4. Before we do the Power 4 over and under pick of the season, I want to remind you to shop at our good new partner, Frost Buddy. Go to frostbuddy.com/PTFS. Get your can cooler for the season, the universal can cooler. Keep your drinks cold, keep them beautiful. Got the Husker one right here I received as a gift. Appreciate Frost Buddy for partnering with us. Shop at frostbuddy.com/PTFS today. All right, let's go to the Power 4. Let's take overs first. Let's be positive, and we'll end on the negative note. Give us a Power 4 team that you feel good taking their over. Could be a part of the big dog list, most likely not. JT, let's go to you first.
Yeah, this is one of the first bets that I took all year when it came out, and it's a pretty popular one at this point, but I got Oklahoma over 6.5. You look at their schedule. It's another bet that I made last year that kind of ended up burning me, but with the introduction of John Mateer into this offense, I think he's going to bring a level of consistency that they just didn't have last year. And as you could see as the year going on, especially with that Alabama game, the defense and Venable's kind of defensive culture that he's established there really started to catch on. And this is the year that I don't think this is a type of team that's just going to become a laughing stock of the SEC. And if you think they're going to go under 6.5, like that's kind of how they're going to start to be treated. So if you look at some of the schedule here, they've got Illinois State and then Michigan at home, which that's a game with Bryce Underwood being true freshman coming to town. I think that's a game that Oklahoma can win. They've got Temple, they've got Auburn at home, and they've got Kent State. So I really don't see a world where they don't start 4-1 or 5-0. And then they've got Red River on a neutral field, which right now that's sitting at 9.5, but that's kind of like a game that could go either way. So that's been something that I've been looking at betting now, but I'm probably not going to. So
yeah,
they've
got all that 6 weeks out.
Then it gets pretty tough. I mean, starting with the Texas game, that's kind of how the schedule is as daunting as it seems. They've got at South Carolina, they've got Ole Miss at home, at Tennessee, at Alabama, Missouri at home, and LSU at home. And as tough as some of those home games can be between LSU and Ole Miss, I think between LSU, Ole Miss, and Missouri, they could maybe end up getting 2 of those, at least one, easily, I would assume. So that would put them at their over mark pretty comfortably as long as the roster stays healthy and Mateer can produce like people think he's going to.
All right. I like the pick. I think there's building hype around Oklahoma, around the college football world, especially right
Absolutely.
before kickoff.
It's
there should
booming. No pun intended. It is booming.
Absolutely.
Nice.
All right.
I
Let's go to
have-
Reed. Go. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jake.
No, I
Go
was just
ahead.
gonna say
Go ahead,
Oklahoma,
Serve your country. Go
Oklahoma
ahead.
over 2.5 or 6.5 minus 220.
Yeah,
what I
you
have
should
right
take it
now.
in February like me.
Holy crap! Got to move
I
that
got
up.
it.
to
I
7.5.
got it like minus
JP's moving the
140 in
lines?
February.
Sharp
JP's
JT is on the
JP's
show.
sharp is what he is, dude.
All
He's
right.
been
Let's
looking
go
up.
to Reese. Reese, give us your favorite over for the Power 4 this year.
Syracuse.
Mine's a little juiced, not as juiced, minus 170. But how about USC over 7.5? I really like this one. Schedule wise, the big thing you miss Penn State and Ohio State. That's big. You get Michigan State, Michigan, Iowa, and UCLA all at home, and then on the road you get Nebraska, Oregon, Notre Dame, and Illinois. So schedule's tough, but I mean you're USC. Like these are games that you need to be competitive and go and win. And I mean I think if you look at it too, they can go 5-1 in the first 6 weeks, and like then after that you got to find me 3 more wins. Like I don't think that's too crazy. Because it's also Lincoln Riley. Like I'm gonna have faith in that guy to have a solid offense and be able to score a bunch of points. And the big thing too was like I don't think they haven't talked about this much. Kind of like just because they didn't have as great of a season last year compared to a couple years ago, but USC's defense, like Danton Lynn, last year they drastically improved. They went from 35 points per game in 2023 to 24. And then in 2023, they were giving up 430 yards a game. They were down to 377 last year. So not saying they're going to make that big of an improvement again where they're cutting them down, 10 points and almost 100 points on yards per game. But if you can give any sort of improvement to that defense, give a little tenacity, and give that offense more chance to score the ball and give Lincoln Riley more opportunities in Mayava, I think USC over, I think, is a good chance because this is a team, I think, especially in the Big Ten, like they got to start to be competitive physically. And like this is kind of a make or break year, I think, for Lincoln Riley, and there's like an experiment out there. So I got faith in Danton Lynn too. So give me USC over 7.5.
A lot of those reasonings sounded similar to North Texas. I like it. The guy knows what he's talking about. I'll absolutely jump on the back of that pick, but that one loss at 5-1, you all know where it's coming from. My pick for the Power 4 over. My boy Brent Key. He went a little de facto on a majority of my picks. Give me over 7.5.
Saw that
Georgia
coming
Tech.
a mile away.
Yeah,
Honestly, I was
Yep.
expecting Nebraska, to be honest with you.
Anyway, all right. Georgia Tech over 7.5. I think you obviously have the big one starting off week 1 on Thursday night with Colorado. Friday with Colorado. You win that game in Folsom. It ain't that tough of a place to play. Trust me. Go on. Your schedule after that's pretty manageable. You got Clemson week 3. That's where you can see dropping one, especially with how high I'm in Clemson, especially talking earlier in the show. Then you have a lot of winnable games. You're talking Temple, Wake Forest, Vatech. Nobody knows if Vatech's going to be any good again. Duke, which will be probably you should win. Not the world's toughest place to play unless you're Notre Dame on a Thursday. Syracuse, NC State, Boston College, Pitt, and then you finalize with Georgia. So you got to feel good about 8. Even 9 with Brent Key, because if any of these teams get a number next to their name, you're probably going to be favored. That's just how the computer is going to punch you out. So I like Georgia
Giant
Tech
killer.
and Haynes King to get to 8 wins. That is my pick for my over. All right, who hasn't gone? Reese? No, Reese gone. Jake. Sorry, go ahead,
Just
Jake.
went
Your
up
show.
shave.
Nope, no, you're good. You know what they call me is Big Ten Jake around here, so I'm gonna stick.
No one's ever
Big
called him that.
Yeah. Washington over 7.5 is my favorite bet of the year. And if this one burns in flames, so be it. Easy non-con. You get Ohio State, kind of similar to Texas. Like Texas has to go on the road to Florida. Ohio State's got to go on the road, on the lake, at Washington for their first Big Ten game of the year.
Yep.
And it's not the biggest place to play, but some people have regarded it as one of the loudest. So there's a real home field advantage there. And I think Damon Williams, I've spoken highly about him numerous times. I think he could be one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten this year. You also get Illinois at home and you get Oregon at home to end the year. Rivalry game. You're glad to get that one at home. So 7.5. Defense loses a ton. In fact, I think they only have one starter coming back, but Ryan Walters, D coordinator, I just love the hire and I think he'll figure it out. So this team just feels 8-4 at the least.
All right, I can see that. Washington's a team that's burned this show before a few times throughout preview season, so maybe we'll finally end up on the right side of it. I don't hate the pick at all. Let's go to JP's pick. Give us his over.
JP has, Hold my document. Okay. JP's known as Big 12 JP around here. Baylor
No.
over 7.5 minus 105 is where
Love
JP
it.
has this at. I can back JP up. This was a team that I have in the conference title. Bring back Sawyer Robertson, Josh Cameron, in
My fantasy
Washington.
quarterback, by the way, Jake. Remember when you were talking shit on my team earlier? Go ahead, though.
I've got Josh Cameron. So
And
Nice.
Josh, like this team is in Bryson Washington at running back as well. Defense just needs to improve a little bit, and that's up to the head coach who's calling plays for them. They've made some changes as far as transfer portal wise. You bring in Kobe Prentice, Alabama wide receiver. So I think, Baylor, if they beat Auburn week 1, you feel so good about hitting this over, and I think you can feel confident about this being a Big 12 title contender team.
I do like the pick. I really do. JP, although we've put him up in the skirt jokingly, it looks nice. He enjoys wearing that every year with his family. It's a kilt. Thank you, Reese. And that's a good pick. Baylor, I can't believe that number is 7.5, honestly. So good find there. All right, let's go to the negative side to end tonight's show. This is our last topic. Let's talk unders in the Power 4. Who's going to underperform to Vegas standards this year? JT, let's go back to you. We haven't heard from you.
Yeah, one of my most favorite bets of this year is I've got Michigan under 9.5. I just looking at this schedule and looking at what they've lost, I have a hard time seeing them being a 10-win team. And I mean, yeah, you take an under 9.5, you can still be a good 9-3 team. But they've got games like at Oklahoma, at Nebraska, at USC, home against Washington, at Michigan State, and home against Ohio State in there. And going into that with a true freshman quarterback, I think it's just going to be hard for them to walk out with double-digit wins. It's usually not the first year after losing a coach that things start to fall apart. And I don't think things are going to start falling apart, but I do think Jim Harbaugh was kind of a generational coach, and 2 years removed from everything that they've lost and all of the defensive talent that they've put into the NFL over the last couple of years. I think there is going to be a little bit of a drawback, and I don't think we're going to see the same Michigan defense that we're expecting to see like we do every single year. That kind of coupled with that schedule and the newness of the offense, I just have a hard time seeing them get to 10 wins.
Yeah, it feels like the narrative and talks around Michigan have sidestepped since last Friday and the sanctions came down. Like, it's all been, Sharon Moore's out for this game and they're only $20 million, but should they have the national championship trip? Fellas, we're weeks away from the season, and this is a top 25 team that lost bad games last year, that games that they shouldn't have, and we're in games that they shouldn't have been in.
And everyone likes
pressure on Bryce Underwood.
Yeah, sorry, I was gonna say everyone likes to default like, oh, the offense is gonna get way better, but look at some of the guys they've lost. They've had like 8 draft picks on their defense the last 2 years, at least. I think there is going to be some sort of regression in that.
They lost some up front. They lost some on the backside of that defense that were super important and actually scored a good majority for them. So they definitely have to replace some functions. I love that pick. All right, let's go on to the under for Reese in the Power 4.
This is my favorite one. I'm going Miami under 9.5 at minus 154.
Let me jump on that. Let me jump on that. I'm in it. Go ahead, Reese. Tell the people why.
I'm just going to say I'm not very high on Carson Beck. You talked about it before. He's a guy who's played in big games, but I just don't think he played that great in those games. You have the elbow issues, and I just think once you get to a game in full speed, elbow is going to be a little bit of a concern there too. And not to mention, hey, week 1, who are we going to bring in? The team that just played national championship last year, and Marcus Freeman, the Fighting Irish. So that's a tough week 1 home game. Then at home, you also get Florida, Louisville, NC State, and USF, who is a sneaky competitive team that people forget about in the state of Florida. Then on the road, you get Florida State, who we assume they're not going to be as bad as they were last year, a Vodtech team, Blacksburg, Enter Sandman. That's a tough place to play, people. SMU and Pitt. I just think you look at that schedule, there's no way there's only 2 losses on there. I think there's a couple, and that defense was an issue last year. And offensively, they have to score a lot of points, I think, if they want to even come close to 10 wins. So give me the under Miami 9.5.
I love it because – go ahead, JT.
Ahead.
Sorry, you first. No, you first.
I was going to say, last year when I was listening to this pod with you guys, when you guys were going through these games, one of my favorite bets that I ended up taking is I tailed Reese with Syracuse's over last year.
Yeah, you did, buddy.
I've taken a couple of your guys' today already. Not like right now, but I've had a couple. I've been sitting on the Miami one like all summer, pretty much essentially since Iowa State played them last year. I was like, this defense is terrible. Their backups are no good. There's no way this team's going to be as good as they are next year. Lo and behold, they're back at 9.5 wins. So I just took Miami's under right now. So I just wanted to shout out Reese for that one. That's the one I'm trailing right now.
I love that. I said it. That was my hot take on the
All
ACC
knowers.
preview is that they're probably gonna lose 5 games. I really see 5 losses on the schedule. So God knows I see 3. I think when you start off 0-1 and all we got to see is 2 more losses, I will feel much better about it than not. Just how I would bet things. I mean, South Florida, Reese already said it, competitive, but like Florida State, that game at Florida State, Florida State didn't have a defensive problem last year. It was not the defense that had a problem. So if you think Carson Beck against a Tony White defense isn't going to make a couple mistakes and throw turnovers like we just watched him do in the SEC, I think Florida State wins that game. I truly do. I think it's going to be, kind of the start of the really good feeling for Mike Norvell and maybe the ability to keep his job. So I love the pick out of Reese. Under 9.5 for me as well on Miami. Jake, you're under.
I will mention too that JP and JT are matched in play. He had Michigan under the 8.5, 9.5, whatever it was as well. So had to give shouts to JP as you guys are just locking in step with some of your underplays. It's good to see a little team chemistry around here. I'm going to go black sheep though. I will stay in the state of Florida. I really like this pick. Under 5.5 UCF. I don't know.
That one as well.
It's your road games. Like I just don't know do they get a road game, a road win in conference at Kansas State? Feels like a for sure loss. At Cincinnati, early October, that could be the one you steal, but also like were a couple of wins for Cincinnati to be in a team that's under the radar. At Baylor, early November, at Texas Tech, you're not winning either one of those. And at BYU, I don't think you're going across country late November in Provo, probably at night, and come out with that. So I'm assuming you're basically going 1-4, 0-5 in road games. Not to mention you have North Carolina at home. You got Kansas at home. I think Kansas is going to be better this year. You get Houston, West Virginia, Oklahoma State at home. Those are 3 teams now you could be better than, but those are also like those 3 teams I just mentioned, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Houston, UCF, all 4 of those teams. You throw them in a pot, like I have no idea what's going to come out of it. I just don't think UCF right now in August on paper is like, oh yeah, they're winning all 3 of those at home, especially Houston. I think Houston's defense is going to be really good. So I don't know. I don't think they have any answer at quarterback, complete roster turnover. Scott Frost hasn't coached in college football. And what's it been?
2 years?
3 years? 2 or 3 years now?
2 years,
So
nothing.
Not saying he can't coach, but it's just like, we'll see what's going on. I like their running
he's been
back.
Using my yearly donation money on a beach somewhere. He's been taking a couple of year vacation, but he's back. And we talked about him in the preview. They had the ongoing quarterback battle. I'm sure they've narrowed it down to at least 2 by now. But do we really feel like Tavian Jackson or even Cam Fincher can replace like the McKenzie Milton or Dylan Gabriel UCFs? And that was back in the American. Scott Frost, this is Big 12 football now. This ain't the American.
That's what I thought too. And the one returning quarterback they have is the Brown kid who played in the Iowa State game. And like he legitimately cannot throw the football. Like he can't throw a forward pass. So I think their quarterback room is just, it's a nightmare. And guess who their defensive coordinator is?
It sure is Alex Grinch.
Yeah, I haven't heard that name in a while.
I placed this bet and I didn't even know that.
Job.
I had absolutely no problem fading Scott Frost.
Like, Scott Frost is head coach and Alex Grinch at defensive coordinator. Like, how do we think this is going to go well?
Bowl game.
Well, 4 years ago in the American, Scott Frost won 11 games. Like it feels like
got the right job now.
It feels like the Shiano Rutgers move where UCF's like, we're not winning 11 games. Bring him back. Get him back. Take him back. That's what they're doing. So we'll see how that goes down in Central Florida. All right. That is everybody's picks. We already gave JP's. Let's do one last brief topic before we wrap up tonight's show and preview of week 0 tomorrow. Buy or sell teams. Guys, give us some teams that are odds out there that you're like, there's so much juice on this. Don't take it. I'm selling this team. I'm buying this team. And tell us why, Jake. I'm sure you're locked and loaded. Go first.
So yeah, I have a list of teams, and I'll just ask you guys. You can either tell me you're going to buy or you're going to sell it. Again, like Park said, these have heavy juice. It's whether are you willing to pay the juice, or you going to buy it, or you're just like, get it out of here, take it off the lot. I don't want this anymore. LSU over 8.5. Buy or sell? Who wants to go first?
I would buy it. I would buy it.
That looked painful for you.
It did, because I hate Brian Kelly, but Nussmeier with the returning production, which is actually good production, I think they squared away, hopefully, the second time around, some defensive holes that they had that they tried to do last year and gave up on it a few times. I think they filled those. As much as I don't like Brian Kelly, I think the talent of the football team will get them to 9. That's where I'm at. So I'd buy that.
No, good. That's good points. Anybody selling on LSU?
I would lean sell. I don't like it, but I just think there's already questions about Nussmeier's health. Granted, the defense did make strides into Blake Baker, but I just think offensively, if that line can't protect Nussmeier and Nussmeier isn't going to be there all year, I just think you lean to sell that.
I don't lean. I hardcore sell because I took this one to the counter. I have LSU under 8.5. And listen, like, is the defense going to get better? It continues to get better with Baker. I like it. I don't like to be biased on this show, but there's some bias toward Brian Kelly that I think I don't know if his guys love playing for him. And granted, I don't know. I'm not in the locker room, but he
wins a lot of games. So
he does win a lot of games, but it felt like after the USC loss last year, they kind of won 6 in a row, but then like after and then after A&M and after what was the other one? Who's the other team they lost to? Florida, I think it was. Like, it just didn't feel like guys like were bought in anymore. Like, you have Clemson first game of the year. I know you can lose that and get back to the playoff, but if you lose that, I just think he has a hard time keeping his guys composed, and I think he has a hard time keeping it together. My personal opinion. Maybe not. We'll
I
wait
feel
and
like
see.
that's kind of been the argument against Brian Kelly forever, especially back at Notre Dame. But I mean, he continues to churn out like 9+ win seasons, like almost every year. And I feel like with the second year with Blake Baker, I feel like is going to produce more results than we saw last year. I mean, the last 2 years, they've still had really good offense, but the defense just hasn't been there. And sometimes it takes a while for the defensive scheme to kind of take hold. Look at kind of Ohio State with Jim Knowles. That didn't pop right away when he got there, and it was the second year where that really started to take off. So I think we could see a lot of improvement with LSU, but like you said, still a really tough schedule. Questions a little bit about Nussmeier's health. This kind of scared me from taking the over, but I would definitely lean the over.
All right, 2 buying, 2 selling. Let's go to the next team, Jake.
I like this one. Illinois over 7.5 minus 165.
It's 8.5 now.
Is it 8.5? Well, for the sake of the conversation,
on an undisclosed sports book, it's 8.5, but the under's minus 170.
Sorry, Parks. You look like you're going to get rolling. Are you taking let's say 7.5 for the conversation?
I'm buying the shit out of it. I'm a Luke Altmaier guy. I think Bielema's just one of those guys, and this may be a Big Ten feeling, and Big Ten Jake, you should know that. Just a guy who wins Big Ten football games. And as close as they may be in some of the games they got in dogfights showed that they shouldn't have last year, I think there's question marks around those teams that they got in those dogfights with, and there's less question marks around the returning production from Illinois. So I feel even better about them this year, even though they churned as many wins as they did last year. So I like Brett Bielema and Luke Altmaier to go over 7.5. 8.5, I would even flirt with.
Yeah, I like it. This just, we get that stat every year, and I know I don't even think they're top 10, but like, what's the one top 10 team that ends up being out of the top 25 at the end of the season?
Historically, it's been Illinois. Yeah,
it feels like that team, but I do like this team. I really do. Reese, I'm assuming you buying?
I'd rather buy. I'd like, if it was 8.5, I'd be selling. I think they're exactly like right at 8. I don't think they're going to be a 9 or 10 win team. I think 8 is like that number. So if you're going to be 7.5, give me 8.
What about you, JT?
I bought this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know
this along with Oklahoma and that little bird over my shoulder were the first 3 bets that I placed this year. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot to explain other than bringing back Bielema, bringing back Altmaier. They're also pretty high up in the rankings, I think, in the S&P as far as returning production goes. I think they were top 5. There's no Penn State, no Oregon, no Nebraska, no Iowa, no Michigan State. No, like a lot of those middle tier teams, and then no Oregon or Penn State on the schedule too. I definitely think they can get back up there to 8 wins.
I like that. JP would also agree. I know how high he is on Illinois, and he's been throughout the entire offseason, so he would buy. So
JP would buy. Him and
Illinois-
Bielema have that secret little brotherhood.
Illinois is one of those bets that, like, yeah, obviously it's up to 8.5 now, so I'm glad I got it 7.5. But it was one of those bets that I want to take right away, just because you don't want to question it. You like look at the returning production and you look at who they're bringing back, and you're like, you want to take that bet before all the offseason hype starts to get to everybody else and starts to all the other teams start to get hyped up. You don't want to question it. You just take it, leave it there, collect your money at the end of the season.
JP and Bielema have that Iowa tat.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah, they're linked. They are linked by blood. So
brothers.
They are. All right, that is Illinois. Let's go to the next team, Jake. Give us one more.
Yeah, I was going to say I had Georgia Tech down, but I think we're all buying. So, yeah. So one more. I have one more then. This one's interesting. I think this was a good one to end on. Texas Tech over 8.5, minus 155. You buying? You buying the hype? You buying the roster? Or are you selling?
Go to me last. Go to me last. I feel like I've been on Texas Tech the last 2 years, so I gotta like really let this one stew. JT, you go first.
Yeah, I haven't taken the over, but I would buy them over 8.5. I just think too much talent on this roster. Maybe it's going to blow up in their face and not work out. But you look at this roster compared to some of the other ones in the Big 12, they still don't have to play some of the top tier teams. Like they don't play Iowa State. I don't believe they play Kansas State, or do they?
So here's the thing. They have at Utah, at Arizona State, at Kansas State. Not saying they can't win any of those, but those are three probably your toughest road games that you could go to in the Big 12.
I think they could win 2 of those. I don't really expect them to clean sweep it, but I could definitely see them winning 2 of those. So, yeah, if I had to take it, I'd take a buy there.
Reese?
I'm going to buy too. I just think you go and spend like that, like this, my money. If I'm not going to bet on all that talent failing that poorly, I'm going to put my money on the over.
Yeah, I would think I would buy again. And it hurts me to say that because I feel like it's more recency, like PTSD almost of I bought into them the last 2 years and the depth just hasn't come through because they've
But this is way different, like roster wise
because of the money they spent. Like if you look at the roster and how much money was on Ohio State's roster and even Georgia's or Notre Dame, like all those teams are up at the top for a reason. And now you're talking money that's at the top of the top in Texas Tech. So it would be hard for me to be like, oh yeah, the depth just can't get it done now. And they're going to have another injury-ridden season. The depth is there. They paid for it. So I feel like I got to say buy. I would buy it for the 3rd year in a row. What about you, Jake?
Yeah, especially with your quarterback back and the actual receivers that they do have who are also returning, like they're not transfers. Offensively, they should be good. And I've raved about the defensive line for them, I think, a million times. Like I'm so curious to see how it matches up against other Big 12 offensive lines because on paper, it feels like they've got a defensive line that actually could compete in, like, I think SEC. It's like at least the starters. I don't know what the second strings look like, but the starters up front look like it's a defensive line that could match the SEC. So I will take. I think they can get to 9. Their non-con's a freaking joke too. It's an absolute joke. I think it's Oregon State, Pine Bluff, and Kent State. Those 2 on your schedule should be a crime. You should be expelled.
For the Golden Flashes.
You should be expelled from the college football playoff for scheduling those 2 teams. We give shit to SEC schools for scheduling these joke of a non-con. You literally scheduled 2 of the worst teams in their own divisions.
I realize they stopped the home and home with Oregon.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. All right. There it is. That's our full win totals episode. We gave you a ton of picks, a ton of overs, ton of unders, G5 included. We do it all here. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you haven't. We appreciate you being here more than you know. We have the week 0 preview tomorrow. So make sure you are in the studio tomorrow night, 7:30. We're going to preview the entire week 0 slate besides one game. Tune in to see who. But of course, we will break down and get our generalized thoughts from an Iowa fan, a Nebraska fan, and a Syracuse fan of that first Farmageddon matchup in Dublin, Ireland this week. We appreciate you being here. We love you. We'll see you next time. Jake, take us away.
I almost forgot the outro music. How could we forget? We'll see you tomorrow. Play it.